all of you. The dignitaries of this inaugural function of the 35th Youth Parliament competition organized by the Kendriya Vidyalaya, Mr. Santosh Kumar, the Deputy Commissioner, Shobha Ghosh, the Assistant Commissioner, Mr. Anil Kumar, who represents the Central University's International Affairs Department, Principal C. Raji, Madam, other principals of this area, the Vice Principal of this Vidyalaya, the participating teams from 7 selected Kendriya Vidyalayas of the Ernakulam region, friends from the media, the teachers, non-teaching staff of this Kendriya Vidyalaya, namaskaram to all of you. It's a proud privilege for me to be present here, especially after my 5 years in the government as a Minister of State in the Parliamentary Affairs as well as the External Affairs. As the Minister of State in the Parliamentary Affairs, I had the fortune to be in charge of the functioning of the Rajya Sabha, that is the Council of States. And as the Minister of State in the External Affairs, I could also attend the UN General Assembly, many multilateral conferences at the UN, where issues of very critical importance for the whole world were discussed among in the countries of the world. And as rightly pointed out by both the Deputy Commissioner as well as the Principal, I feel that this effort will definitely give an idea of how the parliamentary democracy should function and how it should not function. Because sometimes, many times in the recent past, what we see in our legislative bodies are not something that is acceptable, something that can be emulated. So this will be an ideal opportunity for the young minds to imbibe in themselves the real essence of parliamentary democracy. Friends, we used to say that we are the largest democracy in the world because we are a country with 1.4 billion people. So naturally, India has recently become the country with the largest population, but before that, we were the second largest, but we were the largest democracy. But now the world has also accepted the fact that we are not only the largest democracy, we are the mother of democracy. Because as generally being, there is an impression that we learned democracy from somewhere else. And we started practicing democracy after we gained independence on 1947, August 15. But now a lot of studies have brought out the fact that India was not a country where democracy came into existence. India is not a country where democracy came into existence from 15th August 1947. It was there much before, maybe centuries ago. There has been inscriptions there has been lot of study that has been undertaken. And if any one of you have got an opportunity to visit the new parliament, which was inaugurated last year, in the parliament, all these, a section is there, particularly about India being the mother of democracy. How democracy functioned in India. What is democracy? Democracy is ultimately the will of the people are implemented and executed by the rulers. Rulers don't rule for themselves but for the people. That's why democracy is the best known definition of democracy. Of the people, for the people, by the people. That is the definition of democracy. So if it is for the people and by the people and of the people, it means the rule was not for the sake of one person. The rule was not for the sake of, as recently in our democracy, a trend that is coming up. Instead of one person, it becomes one family. In some places, it is some families. So it should not be a family-oriented functioning, family-oriented democracy. It should be people-oriented democracy. So every person is equal. And you might have seen, even the Prime Minister, on the day of voting, when he goes to vote, he stands in a queue, he waits for his turn, and then he exercises his right of franchise. So that is the speciality of democracy, that everyone is equal. There is nobody is above anyone else. So the idea of elected leaders, that was a common feature in ancient India long before the rest of the world. According to the Mahabharata, the first duty of citizens is described as choosing their own leader. And the Vedas, dated much earlier, speak of political power being exercised by broad-based consultative bodies. The roots of democracy can be traced in India from as early as the 4th century. The stone inscriptions of Tanjavur are a living testimonial of the same. A lot of inscriptions were carved on the basal stones of the Bharadishwara temple, not only praising the achievements of the builder, the king, but also depicting the society of the temple city of Tanjavur. It also shows that the people were given much importance. The ancient scripts in many other parts of the world, of the country, clearly indicate the presence of participative governance, particularly at the village community level. And when I come to the present parliamentary democracy, we are the most vibrant parliamentary democracy. When I say vibrant, even we have, as you all know, we have two houses. The House of People, which is known as the Lok Sabha, the House of States, the Council of States, which is known as the Rajya Sabha. And if you, yesterday I was trying to, because when I wanted to speak in this function, I thought that it will be a surprising thing for you, that if I am able to mention the number of parties represented in the Lok Sabha. There are many one-member parties. Even in Rajya Sabha, when we wanted to have the meeting of the leaders of the parties represented, many times we had to limit it to parties who are having more than 5 members. Even then we had 10 or 12 parties. Because it becomes very difficult for every party to be represented. And before our parliamentary functioning has a peculiar tradition, and that tradition is before the session starts, We have 3 sessions. That is the year beginning is the budget session, which is held in the month of January, February. 1st of February we present the budget. On the previous day of the budget, the joint session of the parliament is addressed by the President of India. We have, in a way, imbibed many things from the Westminster model of democracy. The British House of Commons and the British House of Lords. But you will be surprised to know that the Queen addresses the British Parliament in the House of Lords. And the members of the House of Commons have to come, including the Prime Minister, who obviously is from the House of Commons. He comes and stands. But in our democracy, the Prime Minister, the elected representatives gets the place of the most, the place of importance. When I went to the House of Lords in London, for me also it was a surprise that the Queen comes, sits in the House of Lords, and then the members of the House of Commons are summoned. They come and they don't have many times they don't have a place to sit. So including the Prime Minister of UK, they stand and hear the speech of the Queen. But in our democracy, we have a central hall, of course. Now we have, the old building of the Parliament is converted or renamed as Samvidhan Sadan, that is House of Constitution. And the new building is the Sansad Bhavan. So Samvidhan Sadan have the central hall where India's constitution was enacted, and where on 14th August 1947, on that midnight, the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, made a historical speech. You might have, I don't know how many of you have gone through the Wikipedia or Google to know what was that speech and how was that speech. That speech is known as Tryst with Destiny, because that was the first sentence of Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So from there on, that was the place where every year, the beginning of that calendar year, on maybe 30th, on 31st of January, the President of India addresses the joint session of the Parliament. And then the budget, next day the budget is presented. We made a change in the recent years. We used to present the budget in the evening at 5 o'clock. Some people used to say that it suited the British because at that time it is 12 o'clock for them. For them it was a convenient time. Because India's budget has to be presented according to the convenience of the British. But now this government changed that, and now the budget is presented in the morning at 11 on 1st of February. After that we have the budget session has 2 parts. The first part of around 10 days, when the budget is presented, there is a general discussion, and then we have the committee system. We have 24 committees, standing committees of various departments, and every committee has members from both the houses representing all the parties. Almost every member is a member of one or the other committee. And the committee goes in detail into the budgetary proposals. So that you don't see in the camera. You don't see in the YouTube or anywhere else. Then after that, when there is a recess of 3 weeks, the Parliament convenes again. There is a continuation of the budget session. In the first week of March or the second week of March, when the committees present their reports, what they feel about the budget from the perspective, from the point of view of that committee and of that department. Accordingly, the government responds to that. That is how the budget is adopted. I have the opportunity to travel to many countries of the world where I had the opportunity to meet the speakers, the parliamentary affairs ministers, and perhaps our democracy, our parliamentary functioning is one of the most scientific method of scrutinizing the government's expenditure. That is why the committee system is there. The parliament has a role, major role. And if I say that the three duties of the parliament, one is securing accountability of the executive through various instruments available to it in the constitution. Second, the final watchdog of the public exchequer, which approves the allocation of funds and finances and monitors the expenditure. If the parliament doesn't pass the expenditure, in the whole country, government cannot spend a single pie. That's why, and that duty is entrusted to the Lok Sabha, that is the House of the People. Rajya Sabha doesn't have the authority to stall anything related to finance that is passed by the Lok Sabha. So, all such bills are called as money bills. And when money bills are presented in the Rajya Sabha, of course, Rajya Sabha can suggest some amendments. But if amendments are suggested, the Lok Sabha has the right and authority to discard those proposals. So in budget, when the budget is presented, if any one of you have heard Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman presenting the budget and the discussion, replying to the discussion in the Rajya Sabha, she will not say, pass the budget. She will say, please return the budget. That is the particular word used. That is, Rajya Sabha as of course, as the Council of States, it has its authority, it has its rights. It can propose, but it can return, it has to return the finance bill. And then it goes back. If some amendments are made for a final decision to the Lok Sabha again. So that's why the final watchdog of the public exchequer, which approves the allocation of funds and finances and monitors expenditure. And third function of the parliament, parliament serves as an effective mouthpiece of the people bringing in their issues, concerns, problems and difficulties to the attention of the governments and the nation. I hope you may be enacting today in that the 0 hour. So in 0 hour, the government is not expected to reply at that moment. But the members have the right to raise issues of concern. So recently when we had the landslide in Wayanad, Parliament was in session. So next day, that issue was raised. Then the Parliament is informed of the decisions taken, the happenings around. This time during the Parliament session, you might have noticed that India's External Affairs Minister, Sri Jaishankar, Subramaniam Jaishankar, he briefed, made a statement in both the houses regarding the happenings in Bangladesh. We also express our appreciation and our sorrow at many happenings in the house, in the country, but not only in the country, but outside also. When the house assembles in the morning, the first thing that is taken up is, say for example, India has got medals in the Olympics. Then the sports persons are congratulated. There is a condolence resolution adopted. If some great leader, former members of parliament, they pass away, some natural calamity happens, not only in India but across the world also. So all such things. So our parliament mirrors the happenings not only in India but the entire world. So I don't know how many of you have taken time and pain to see through the session of the parliament in YouTube. Now we have the Sansad TV. So in Sansad TV, in YouTube I have subscribed to the Sansad TV. So even at night or after 2 days, if you want to go through during the parliament session, what has happened in the parliament yesterday, the whole day 6 hours, 11 to 1, 2 to 6. That is the normal functioning time of the parliament. So these 6 hours, what has happened? Who has raised which issue? What are the major issues that has been brought in by the people? So parliament should be, is a forum for debate and not for confrontation. That is the great lesson that each one of us, each one of you, the whole country has to bear in mind. So when it becomes a platform of confrontation, it becomes the betrayal of the people's faith and mandate. Parliament ഏറ്റുമുട്ടലിനും പ്രതികാരം തീർക്കലിനുമുള്ള വേദിയായി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ജനവിധിയെ വഞ്ചിക്കണം. So it should not happen. So, and members of the parliament are morally and ethically bound to speak responsibly in the house, and their behavior and conduct should adhere to the highest parliamentary forum. Former President Pranab Mukherjee, he said, discuss, debate and decide, but don't disturb. So disruption should not be the form of functioning in the parliament. It should be discuss, debate and decide. Neither disturb nor disruption. So disruption is not the form of parliamentary democracy. And the opposition has a major role to play in the parliament. In our country, the leader of opposition in both houses, they get the rank of the cabinet minister in the government. And the leader of opposition in India, he also has the many other authorities, like he participates in key appointments made by the government, such as the selection of the Central Vigilance Commissioner, the Vigilance Commissioner, all these, many of these posts, even now the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court Justices. So all these things, the right and authority is not vested purely on the government or the Prime Minister, but the leader of opposition also has a role. Because in our system of Westminster democracy, because in our parliamentary democracy, the first past the post is the winner. First past the post means even if you get 35% of the vote and the second man has got only 34, you are the winner. In some countries that is not the thing. You should have 50%, more than 50%. So unless a person gets 50%, the voting continues. There is an elimination. If there are 4 candidates, the person who gets the least votes gets eliminated. Then the other 3 contest. But in our democracy, the first past post, that is the Westminster model, that is there. But in that also it means that those who have lost, those who have not been able to win, he also has the support of the people. Maybe a lesser percentage. 50.1 may be the winner, 49.9 may be the loser, but the 49.9 voice also need to be reflected. That is why the LOP, the leader of the opposition, gets a very prominent role in the functioning of the government and the parliament. So, and traditionally, I have observed during the last 5 years, the Prime Minister many times it finds it difficult for him to attend the entire session. But whenever the leader of the opposition speaks, the Prime Minister sits throughout the speech. He doesn't leave the house at all. And through mutual consultation, we are informed when the leader of the opposition is likely to speak. Say, for example, in the budget, he initiates the discussion. Sometimes he will be the last speaker. So the Prime Minister comes to the house in both the houses, both the Rajya Sabha as well as the Lok Sabha. When the leader of opposition speaks, Prime Minister sits there throughout and he listens to the speech. That is respect for the dissenting voice. Dissenting voice, dissent means that he also has his view. One should hear the dissenting voice also. It is not only applicable in the parliamentary democracy, it is required for a healthy societal life. If two friends are there, if in your class there are many students, somebody will have one view, there will be others who have their own views. It's always required that we hear the view of the other person. We don't, of course, after that you can take a considered final opinion, final decision. So those in government also, through the consultative committees, through the standing committees, we hear the view of the entire parliament. Even one member parties are represented in the standing committees. So they get an opportunity to express their views. Even in the Council of States, Nagaland has got only one member. But it represents a state. So the opinion of the people of that state is expressed by the member of that state. So his opinion carries weight. So that's how it is done. So the opposition should become a strength in the parliamentary democracy. It should not become a disruptive force in the parliamentary democracy. So let us emulate the right practices. What should be and what has to be, what is the ideal form of democracy. And let this parliament, the mock parliament or the youth parliament, communicate what has to happen in parliamentary democracy. So, Paraspara Bahumanam, mutual respect. Paraspara Bahumanam Kaividatta parliamentary Janadhipatyam. അതാവണം നിങ്ങളുടെ ഈ യൂത്ത് പാർലമെന്റിലൂടെ നിങ്ങൾ ലോകത്തിന് മുൻപിൽ കാഴ്ചവെക്കുന്ന മാതൃക. And let us show the world that the future is bright for Indian democracy and India's parliament democracy. I am sure that this youth parliament will definitely be instrumental in spreading this message and also in providing a platform for each one of us to inculcate the values of parliamentary democracy and respect for the point of view of the other side. With these words, let me conclude and best wishes to all the participants in this mock parliament. Thank you.